Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Mem Zayin Amud Beis 47b of Maseches Kiddushin, and we're 2 lines from the bottom of the page where the Gemara says V'i Bayis Ema. And really the Gemara is still in the middle of a discussion about the opinion of Rav. Rav expressed the opinion that Hamakadesh b'milveh eina mikudeshes. If somebody tries to betroth a woman with money that he lent her, it's not Kiddushin. Why? Because milva lahotza nitna, a loan is meant to be spent. In other words, as soon as he lends her the money, that money is now hers. It's not his. She owes him money, but the money that he gave her is no longer his, and so he can't use that money and say, let that money be the Kiddushin. So the Gemara had brought a brisa, and it thought that actually maybe the brisa was the subject of a machlokas, was actually the dispute found in the brisa was over this point of Rav, whether it's true or not, and that would be problematic for Rav because this is a brisa with 2 Tanaim arguing. So the brisa had said that if a man says hiskadshi li b'shtar chov, if a man says I want to betroth you with a shtar chov, with a promissory note, or it says that he had a milva biyad achirim, he had a loan belonging to in someone else's hands, meaning he had lent someone money and he gave her authority over it. So Rabbi Meir said that in either of those cases, where he tries to be makadisher with the promissory note or by transferring authority over another loan, Rabbi Meir said mikudeshes, it's good kiddushin, and the Chachamim said it's not good kiddushin, eina mikudeshes, and the Gemara had tried to suggest that somehow relates to Rav. And then the Gemara said, no, it has nothing to do with Rav, nothing to do with the Hamakadesh b'milveh. There's 2 cases being discussed in this brisa. The first is where there's a loan with a promissory note, with a shtar, with a document, and there's a machlokas over that. And the second case is where he transfers authority over a loan. That was a case where it was an oral loan. There was no document. And they're having an argument over that as well. So the first case of the brisa, which is where there's a shtar, and he tries to be mekadesher by giving her that shtar, he gives her a promissory note entitling her to someone to this loan that's owed to him. Rabbi Meir said mikudeshes, the Chachamim said eina mikudeshes. Rabbi Meir said it's good kiddushin, the Chachamim said it's not. And the Gemara had a couple of suggestions about what they might be arguing about. And now, and the last suggestion that we left off last week was that they're arguing within the opinion of Rav Papa. Rav Papa had said that when you transfer a promissory note, and you have to write a shtar, you have to write a document, not just that, the promissory note itself, not just that document, you need an additional document that like a contract, a bill of sale of that, or in this case, a bill of transaction of that loan. And Rav Papa had said that you have to write in that document that you are acquiring the loan and all the liens that are related to it. And if you don't, then it doesn't transfer. And the Gemara suggested maybe that's what they're arguing about. According to Rabbi Meir, who said it's good kiddushin, meaning the case would be where the guy didn't write that. So Rabbi Meir says it's good kiddushin because he doesn't hold like Rav Papa, he doesn't require it. And the Chachamim say it's not good kiddushin because they do require that you write not just that you're transferring the loan, but also all the liens. And he didn't write that, and therefore it never became hers, so it wasn't good kiddushin. That was the Gemara's suggestion. Now the Gemara says, 2 lines from the bottom of the page, V'i bayis ema, if you want, you could say, Dekuli ama islahu de Rav Papa. Everybody agrees to Rav Papa. We wouldn't want Rav Papa to be the subject of a machlokas tanaim. So everybody agrees to Rav Papa. You have to write in the contract that, in the bill of transaction, that it's the loan and all the liens associated. So what are they arguing about? V'hacha b'deshmuel kamiflagi. They're arguing about a point that Shmuel makes. To Amar Shmuel, that Shmuel says, top of the next page, Hamocher shtar chov l'chaveiro, if a person sold a shtar chov, he sold a promissory note, he sold the rights to a loan to his friend, v'chazar mechala, and then he went back to the original friend, sorry, not to this guy, he went to the borrower and he was mochel it. He forgave the loan. So he transferred the rights to the loan to collect the loan to someone else, but then he went to the borrower and said, I forgive you, you don't have to pay me. So does that work? So Shmuel says, machel, it's forgiving, it works. Va'afilu yoresh mochel, and even a yoresh, an heir, an inheritor, can be mochel, can do that. Meaning, what Shmuel seems to hold is that the relationship of the borrower and the lender has not changed, even though he's transferred the rights to collect to the to a buyer, and the borrower doesn't actually owe the buyer, the one who bought the loan. The borrower doesn't owe him anything. The borrower owes the lender, the one who sold the loan. That's who he owes. Now the seller may, when it entered into an obligation, that he would transfer that loan to the buyer. But the borrower doesn't actually owe the buyer. So Shmuel holds the borrower owes the lender, and if the lender decides to forgive it, then it's forgiven. Obviously that's not a nice thing to do and may be problematic to do that, but it works. So therefore the Gemara says they're arguing about whether this is true or not. Does the lender have the right to forgive the loan? Dimar islay d'shmuel, mar leslay d'shmuel. The first opinion holds one opinion holds like Shmuel, one opinion disagrees with Shmuel. And what is that? That Rabbi Meir, who said that it's a good Kiddushin, Rabbi Meir said, actually let's start with the Chacham. The Chacham is saying it's not a good Kiddushin. Why? Because when he gives her that loan, she doesn't actually know if when he gives her the shtar chov, the promissory note, as Kiddushin, she doesn't know if she's ever actually going to get that money. Because he could just turn around and forgive it from the lender, from the borrower. He's the lender. He could just forgive the borrower and say, you don't have to pay it. And then she ends up with nothing. So therefore, she doesn't have a smichas dash. She's not relying on this. She's not counting on it. So she never, puts her full mind to accept the Kiddushin because she doesn't actually know if she's going to get anything. So therefore, the Chachamim said it's not a good Kiddushin because they hold, like Shmuel, that the lender has the ability to forgive the loan. But Rabbi Meir says it is a good Kiddushin. Why? Because he doesn't hold like Shmuel. He holds the lender cannot forgive the loan. If you sell a loan, you lose your rights to it, and now the buyer of the loan, the owner of the loan, has the rights to collect it. So, and you can't tamper with that. So therefore, when she receives this promissory note as Kiddushin, she's confident she's going to be able to collect the loan, and therefore she accepts the Kiddushin, and it's a good Kiddushin. That's the new suggestion of what the Machlokas is about. V'iba Yisema, if you want, you can say a different approach. Dikuliyama islu de Shmuel. We'll say, no, everybody holds like Shmuel. Again, it's better for us that Shmuel fits in with both Tanaim. So really, everybody holds of Shmuel. The lender has the right to forgive it, and she would be left with nothing. V'hacha ba'isha kamiflagi. And they're arguing about what's her mindset in such a case. Mar savar isha samcha daita. One opinion holds Rabbi Meir, who says it's a good Kiddushin, he holds she's samcha daita. She rests her mind on it, she accepts, she assumes she's going to get it. Meimar Amra, she says, Lo shavik leila didi umachlai lachrini. He's not going to give it to me and then turn around and be mochel it. This is the guy who's trying to marry me. That would not be good for Shalom Bayis. It would not be good for marital harmony if he gives her this loan as Kiddushin and then turns around and cancels it by forgiving it. So she assumes that he's not going to do that, and therefore she is smichus das. She accepts the Kiddushin. She assumes she's going to get it, and it's a good Kiddushin. That's Rabbi Meir's opinion. Umar Savar, and the other opinion the Chachamim hold, Isha nami lo samcha daita. The woman is not somech das, and she does not rely on this. She can't count on it, even though she's his wife, or he's trying to make her his wife. In this case, she doesn't feel that there's a guarantee she's going to get the money, therefore she doesn't have the proper mindset to accept the Kiddushin as if she's getting something, and therefore the Chachamim say that it's not a good Kiddushin. That's perhaps what that machlokes is about. Again, this is all to say it has nothing to do with Rav, nothing to do with whether you can be Mekadesh b'milveh, whether you can use a loan as Kiddushin. Okay, now we mentioned that the Brisa had two cases. The Brisa had the case where, and Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim argued in both cases. First, they argued in the case of a milveh b'shtar, where there's a loan with a shtar, where he tried to be mekadesher with the shtar, with the document, by giving her the rights to the loan, and the second case was where there was no shtar. It was a milveh al peh. It was a oral loan, and he's trying to transfer the authority to her to collect the loan as the Kiddushin. So the Gemara says, b'milveh al peh b'mai pligi. When it comes to that second case, where he's transferring the authority of the loan, of an oral loan, where again Rabbi Meir said it's a good Kiddushin, and the Chachamim say it's not a good Kiddushin, what are they arguing about? B'mai pligi. Says the Gemara, bid Rav Huna amar Rav. They're arguing about regarding the opinion of Rav Huna in the name of Rav. Da amar Rav Huna amar Rav. Rav Huna saying in the name of Rav, Mana li biyadcha. If a person says, you have my money, my money. You have my money. Tino leploni b'maimad shlashta. Tino leploni. Give it to so and so. So you have three people: Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven lent money to Shimon. Reuven says to Shimon, "The money that I lent you, give it to Levi." So does that work? Can I instruct somebody who owes me money to give the money to someone else? Will that other person acquire that? And also, would that now the loan no longer be in effect because you owed me money, but I told you to give it to the other guy. So does that work? So the Gemara says, so Rav said really, b'maimad shlashtan kaneh. If it's in front of all three of them, it works. If all three of those people are present when he says it, then it works. That was Rav's halacha. The Rashi tells us this is not something that we have a tam for, we don't have a reason for it. Why? But that's the halacha that Rav teaches, that as long as they're all there, then it works. So Mar Savar, so one opinion holds Ki Kamarav Hani Mili Bipikadam Aval Milvelo. So, 1 second actually, let's take a step back. When he said, you have my money, what was the case? Why does he have his money? Was there a loan? Or was he watching the money for him? The case that Rav said, that when Shimon, I think I said he lent him money, but that's not necessarily the case as we're about to see. Shimon has Reuven's money. And Reuven says to Shimon, the money that belongs to me that you're holding on to, give it to Levi. And Rav said, as long as they're all there, then it works. So the Gemara says, the machlokes that's going on in this brisa, the dispute in this brisa, is whether that halacha is true both for a pikadon, for money that's just being watched, and for a loan, money that's borrowed, or specifically for a pikadon, specifically if it's money being watched. So it says the Gemara, Mar Savar, one opinion holds Ki Kama Rav, that when Rav said this, Rav came after these Tanaim, but the idea that Rav is transmitting, Hani Mili B'Pikadon. That's true if the money was a pikadon, if it was just there to be watched. Aval milvelo, but if it's a loan, then it doesn't work. And the difference, right, is significant between a pikadon and a milveh, based on everything we've been saying. A pikadon is not meant to be spent. You're watching my money for me. You're not supposed to spend it. So when I say give that money to so-and-so, then that's the money, that the money that you're watching, I'm just transferring it. But if it's a loan, so the money, you don't have my money anymore. You owe me money. And so for me to resolve that debt by having you give it to someone else, that's already another story. I'm not just telling you to take what's mine and give it to a third person. So So that's the question. So one opinion holds that it only works for a pikadon and it doesn't work for a loan. And therefore, if we go back to our case is where a man says to a woman, I want to give you authority over the loan that I have in the hands of another guy. So Ruvain had lent money to Shimon. It was an oral loan. There's no document that he's able to give this potential wife. And he just says to her, you now have the rights, he'll give it to you. That's basically this case, where Reuben's going to tell Shimon, give it to her. But does that work? Does that resolve the debt? Is Shimon giving her Reuben's money in that case? So, is she receiving the money from Reuben, or is that just Shimon giving his own money? So the Chachamim hold that it doesn't work by a loan, and therefore they say over here it would not be Kiddushin because she's not. It doesn't work. And Umar Savar Loshna Milva Loshna Pikadon. And the other opinion holds that it doesn't matter if it's a loan, it doesn't matter if it's a pikadon, it doesn't matter if it's a loan or if it's just money being watched. Either way, such a transaction works, and therefore that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir, that Rabbi Meir said it is good Kiddushin if the man says to the woman, I want to be Mekadesh you with the money that is in the hands of the other guy, he's going to give it to you, then she expects to get that money, because indeed he's going to have to give it to her, so therefore that's a good Kiddushin. Meaning even before she got the money, Rabbi Meir is going to say it's a good Kiddushin. He's giving her the rights to that, and that works because Rabbi Meir will hold that you can transfer those rights on a loan, and the Chachamim will hold that you can't transfer the rights in that way. Okay, now the Gemara returns to Rav's opinion, and they again suggest that maybe Rav is involving himself in a machlokas Tanaim, in a dispute between Tanaim. So the Gemara says, again, Rab's opinion is the Mekadesh b'milva eina mikudeshes. You try to betroth a woman with money that you lent her, it's not Kiddushin. Nemo kitanai. Let's suggest again that this is a machlokas Tanaim, a dispute of Tanaim. We have a brisa. It says, Iskachi li b'shtar. A man goes to a woman and he says, I want to betroth you with this document. Now it's not a shtar chov here. We're not talking about a promissory note. It's just a shtar. So the Gemara is going to figure out what the story is here. Actually, it might be a shtar chov. Let's see how the Gemara breaks it down. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Meir Omer Eina Mikudeshes. Rabbi Meir says it's not Kiddushin. Rabbi Elazar Omer Mikudeshes. Rabbi Elazar says it is Kiddushin. So he wants to be Mekadesher with the shtar. Rabbi Meir says it's not Kiddushin. Rabbi Elazar says it is Kiddushin. The Chachamim Omrim. The Chachamim say Shamen Esaniyar. You have to evaluate the value of the paper. Im yesh bo shava pruta mikudeshes. If it's worth a pruta, then it's Kiddushin. The paper itself was worth a pruta. So it's good Kiddushin. Vim lav eina mikudeshes. If it's not worth a pruta, it's not a good Kiddushin. So the opinion of Rabbi Meir said that it's not Kiddushin. That's even if it's worth a pruta, because that's not what she's thinking about. She's thinking about something else. So let's see what she might be thinking about. What kind of shtar is this? So the Gemara asks, Hi shtar, hey chidami. What is this shtar that he's giving her as Kiddushin? Ilema shtar chov da'acherim. If you'll tell me that it's a shtar chov, it's a promissory note of a loan that he has with someone else. So he's giving her the loan. So that's a problem, because kashya de Rabbi Meir ad Rabbi Meir. Then, then it's going to be a contradiction of Rabbi Meir against Rabbi Meir, because we just discussed a brisa that talked about where a man gives a woman a shtar chov, and Rabbi Meir there said that it is good Kiddushin. And now Rabbi Meir is the one saying it's not good Kiddushin. So it can't be the same case. So it can't be that it's a shtar chov of someone else. It can't be it's a promissory note of a loan that he lent to someone else. So, so it must be that it's a promissory note of hers. He lent her money, and he has the IOU, the promissory note, and he's giving that to her. So what's the argument? What does Rabbi Meir? Rabbi Meir says it's not Kiddushin. Rabbi Elazar says it is Kiddushin. What are they arguing about? They're arguing about. They seem to be arguing about this point whether you could be mekadesh her with a loan. He's basically saying, I want. Here's your document, and the money that I lent you should be the Kiddushin. Isn't that what they're arguing about? Rabbi Meir saying it's not a good Kiddushin, like Rav, and Rabbi Elazar saying it is a good Kiddushin. And the Chachamim, I guess, would be like Rabbi Meir, it's not a good Kiddushin, but if it's worth a pruta, then it's fine. So says the Gemara, Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak, no, that's not what they're arguing about. Hacha b'mayaskinan, here what are we dealing with? Kigon shekidsha b'shtar she'en alav edim. We're talking about where he was mekadesher with a shtar, with a document that had no edim on it, so no witnesses. So the shtar is a shtar erison. It's a shtar of betrothal, right? Remember, isha niknis begimel drachim. A woman can be acquired in 3 ways, right? The very first Mishnah, isha niknis b'shalosh drachim, bekesef b'shtar aviyah. One of the ways that you could do Kiddushin is with a shtar. The shtar says, Hariyat Mikudeshesli, and you give it to her. So that's what we're talking about. But there were no witnesses signed on this shtar. So, and what they're arguing about is whether you need witnesses to sign the shtar. Rabbi Meir g'taimei. And Rabbi Meir would be, according to his reasoning, Da'amar Eidei Chasima Karti. So the Gemara is telling us that actually it's bringing in a major machlokas, a major dispute in the laws of Gittin. There's a major dispute between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Elazar when it comes to a get, a bill of divorce. So a bill of divorce has Eidim who sign it, and also Eidim who witness the transfer of the get from the man to the woman. So which of those witnesses are essential, and which ones are just an add-on as an extra rabbinic protection? So that's the machlokus between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Meir is, according to his reasoning over there, D'amar Eidei Chasima Karti. Rabbi Meir holds that it's the Eidim, the witnesses that are signed on the get, those are the ones that really affect the divorce. Meaning that's what's really essential, and the Eidim that witness it is just for an added protection for later, in case you lose the get and you can't verify it. You have people that witnessed it's being given. So, but the main Eidim who are affecting the get here are the witnesses that sign the get. And so too over here, Rabbi Meir will hold that you also need witnesses to sign on the shtar erison, on the bill of betrothal, if you're doing it in that way. And that's why Rabbi Meir says the case here is where there's no witnesses signed on the shtar, and Rabbi Meir therefore says it's not Kiddushin, because you need witnesses signed. But Rabbi Elazar, who says over here that it is a good Kiddushin, L'tamei, he's going according to his reasoning in Gittin, Da'amar Eidei Mesira Karti. He holds Eidei Mesira Karti, the Eidim that witness the transfer of the get are the main witnesses that allow the get to take effect, and the Eidim that sign the document, that's for an additional protection, and therefore over here too, you don't need witnesses to sign the shtar erison, the bill of betrothal. And it's still going to be a good Kiddushin. So that's why Rabbi Elazar says that it's a good Kiddushin. The Rabbanan misafka lahu. They weren't sure Ikir Rabbi Meir, Ikir Rabbi Elazar. They were not sure whether the halacha is like Rabbi Meir or like Rebbe Lazar. So therefore, however, they agree that they hold that she's thinking about the paper also. She's not ignoring the value of the paper, and therefore they hold Shaming as Haniyar. You evaluate the value of the paper. Im yesh bo shava pruta mikudeshes. If it's worth a pruta, then it's a good kiddushin. And then it says vim lav eina mikudeshes. If it's not worth a pruta, then she's not mikudeshes. Now that actually is a bit of a question, because because we just said that they're actually uncertain. Is the halacha like Rabbi Meir or like the Chachamim? So that actually Rashi says you shouldn't be goris that. We don't know what they would say to that. It would be a suffix of some sort if it's not worth a pruta. But if it is a pruta, then they'll certainly agree it's a full kiddushin, because they say she's also thinking about the value of the document, of the paper, and that would be more of a kiddushin of kesef, right? Kesef or shava kesef. It's a shtar has nothing to do with the value. When you do kiddushin with the shtar, it's like a transaction of a contract sort of. But which is what they were seemingly attempting here. But the Chachamim hold that she's also keeping in mind the value of the paper, and therefore, if the paper is worth a pruta, she could accept that like money or like shava kesef, like something that has the value of a pruta, and it would be a good kiddushin. So that's one suggestion maybe of what this machlokes is all about. But again, it's not related to Rav about Mekadesh b'milva. V'bayisemar, if you want, you could say it's a different case. Kigon shekasvo shelo lishma. The case was that they wrote it, but you had proper Adam sign it, but it was written shelo lishma. It wasn't written with her in mind. So they wrote the shtar eris, and they wrote this bill for a betrothal, but they didn't have her in mind when they wrote it. And the question is that necessary? Reish Lakish kam miflagi, and they're arguing within the discussion that was raised by Reish Lakish. Debai Reish Lakish, because Reish Lakish asked way back on Daf Tes, page 9a, he asked Shtar Erisin Shekasvo Shelo Lishma Mahu. If you write the bill of betrothal, a Shtar Erisin, but you don't write it Lishma, you don't write it with her in mind, specifically, is it still usable? Does it work? What's his question? His question is because by Gittin, a get has to be written Lishma. It has to be written with the Lishma and Lishma, for the man and the woman in mind. And so here, the question is the shtar of entering a marriage, does that follow the same halachos of the shtar of the document for leaving a marriage? So that was the question raised by Reish Lakish. And his question was, Havaya liyitzia makshinan? Do we compare entering a marriage to leaving a marriage? Ma yitzia beinan lishma. And just like leaving a marriage, we know by a get it has to be written lishma. It has to be written with her in mind. Af havaya nami beinan lishma. So too the shtar of entering a marriage has to be written with her in mind. O dilma, or maybe havayos lahadadi makshinan. Then no, we compare the different methods of entering a marriage to each other. We don't compare the shtar of entering a marriage to the shtar of leaving a marriage. We compare the shtar of entering a marriage to the money of entering a marriage, to the different ways that you can enter a marriage. You could become mikudeshes. And ma havaya de kesef lo bainan lishma. Just like when you do kiddushin with money, there's no idea of like making the money with her in mind. So too, af havaya de shtar lo bainan lishma. So too, when you make the shtar, you don't have to have her in mind. That was the question that Reish Lakish raised. Do you need her in mind when you write the shtar? And Basar Debaya Hadar Pashta. After he raised the question, he answered it, and he said, V'yatza v'haisa. It says in the pasuk that she'll leave the marriage after receiving a get, and then she'll go and marry someone else. Makish havaya liyitzia. And we compare marriage to entering a marriage to leaving a marriage, and just like leaving a marriage, it has to be written lishma. Written lishma, it has to be written with her in mind. So too, entering a marriage has to be written with her in mind. And that's how Reish Lakish concludes. So So the case would be over here that we're suggesting is that right, the Brisa had said that if a man gives a woman a shtar, he's gachali b'shtar, be mekudeshes with this shtar. We had a machlokas. Reb Meir said she's not mekudeshes. Reb Elazar said she is mekudeshes. The Chachamim said you have to. It depends how much the paper is worth. So what are they arguing about? So now we're suggesting the case is that he wrote the shtar, but he didn't have her in mind. So Mar Isle de Reish Lakish. Rabbi Meir, who says that it's not a good Kiddushin, he holds of Reish Lakish, that it has to be written with her in mind. And since it wasn't, then it's not a good Kiddushin. Umar Lesle de Reish Lakish. And the other opinion doesn't hold of Reish Lakish. Rabbi Elazar said it is a good Kiddushin. He disagrees with Reish Lakish. He holds you don't have to write it with her in mind. Viba Yisema, and if you want, you can say Dekul Yama Islahu de Reish Lakish. That really they all hold of Reish Lakish. Both Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Meir all agree that it has to be written with her in mind. Here, what are we dealing with? Shekasva lishma v'shalomi daita. He wrote it lishma, but he didn't write it with her in mind. He wrote it with her in mind, lishma, but she didn't know about it when he wrote it. And the question is, does she have to know about it when he writes it? And this is really a machlokas between, on one side, Rava and Ravina, and on the other side, Rav Papa and Rav Shravya. De itmar, because it was said, Kasva lishma v'shalom idaita, if a man writes a shtar, erisin, a document for betrothal, and he wrote it with her in mind, but without her knowing about it, can he use that document? Rava v'Ravina amri mekudeshes. Rava and Ravina say that it's a good Kiddushin, and they learned that from get. The get does not have to be written with her knowledge and agreement. Rav Papa and Rav Shravya amri eina mekudeshes. Rav Papa and Rav Shravya say she's not mekudeshes because I think they learned from Rashi brings from the Gemara earlier that they understand that you learn something else from get. When it comes to get, so the one who is transferring ownership, so to speak, transferring rights, is agreeing. I mean, by Torah law, a man can divorce his wife against her will. By rabbinic law, it's not the case anymore, but by Torah law, he can. So in the case of a get, the man is really transferring to the woman, to the wife, full rights of herself now. When she's married, she has obligations to her husband. Now she's free again. So when he gives her a get, he's the makneh. He's transferring to herself to herself. And there, we need the husband to agree. Midaraisa, Torah law, we don't need her agreement, but we need his agreement. He has to want to do it, or agree to do it at least. So therefore, perhaps just like when it comes to a get, you need the makna, the one who's transacting over to know and agree. So maybe also when you write the shtar erisin, when you write a bill of betrothal. So in that case, she's the makneh. When you enter a marriage, the woman is giving herself over to the husband. So therefore, maybe you need her agreement. You do need her agreement for the marriage, but maybe even for the writing of the document, you would need her agreement. She would have to know about it, and that is the opinion of Rav Papa and Rav Shravya. And therefore, if you didn't have her agreement on the writing, she's not mekudeshes. So the Gemara is suggesting maybe that's what the argument over here is all about, that he was mekadesh her with a shtar, and it was written with her in mind, but she didn't know about it. And Rabbi Meir, who says eina mekudeshes, it's not Kiddushin, holds that she has to know about it, and Rabbi Elazar, who says that it is a good Kiddushin, holds that she does not have to know about the writing of the shtar. Okay. Says the Gemara, another suggestion maybe that is related to Rav's opinion of Mekadesh ben Milveh, of betrothing with a loan. The Gemara says, Nema kehani tonight. Let's say that his ruling is subject to the machlokes of the following Tanaim. D'Tanya, we learning a brisa. A woman goes to a man, a jeweler, let's say, and she gives him gold or silver, and she says, Aseli shirim, make for me some kind of necklace, I think, or it could be it's like a head plate, some kind of jewelry. Nizamim, nose rings, I believe, or earrings, some kind of rings, nose rings, vitabaos, and rings. So basically she gives him the materials, and she says, make some jewelry for me. He's a jeweler, a silversmith, or whatever, goldsmith. Va'kadesh ani lach. And she says, and that will be the Kiddushin. Your efforts, your work of beautifying, turning my materials into jewelry, that will be the Kiddushin. So, the Brisa says, Kevan she'asan mikudeshes. Once he makes them, it seems, even though he didn't even give them back to her, once he makes them, it's Kiddushin. Divri Rabbi Meir, that is the opinion of Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim Omrim Eina Mikudeshes. The Chachamim say it's not Kiddushin ad sheyagia mamon liyada, until the mamon, the money, literally, gets into her hands. So it's not Kiddushin until the money gets into her hands. So Rabbi Meir seems to be saying as soon as the work is complete, it's Kiddushin, and the Chachamim say not until she gets the money. Ask the Gemara, Hai mamon hechidami. What is this money that we're talking about? Ilema oso mamon. If we mean that money, meaning that those materials. So, Michlad Tanakama Savar Afilu Oso Mamon Amilo. Are you implying that the first opinion, Rabbi Meir, who said that as soon as it's done, it's Kiddushin, that's even if she doesn't get them back? The Gemara doesn't think that that's tenable, because where's the Kiddushin? She didn't get anything yet. So he took her materials, he made it into something, but it's in his shop. So how could Rabbi Meir say already at that point there's a Kiddushin? Or she doesn't have anything yet. So, Elolav b'mamon acher. So we must be talking about other money. Money that she owes him for the work. And they must be arguing about, what are they arguing about then? If it's money that she owes him, they're arguing about whether you could be Mekadesh with a loan. She owes him money for the work, and he's saying, that money that you owe me should be the Kiddushin. Bisavri, and they hold, continuing the build-up, Dekuli Alma, everybody agrees, Yeshna Lestiros Mitchila Ve'ad Sof. That the money for the work is owed from the beginning till the end. Meaning, there are two ways to look at this case. One way is that she doesn't owe him anything until he delivers the goods. So then, if that's the case, there's no loan. So if that's the case, so then he could say, if that's the case, he comes, he delivers the goods, and she owes him now on delivery. She'll owe him money. It's not a loan though. It's just like because it never had a time period. Right now now she has to pay him, and at that point, if he would forgive that, so then that would be a Kiddushin. But we're suggesting that's not the case. In fact, everybody agrees we're suggesting that the way it works is that when a craftsman is doing work for someone, so every hour he's already earned, and in this case she would owe him for every little bit that he did, and it builds up. It's not due until everything's complete, but she's owing him money as it goes, And so there's an outstanding loan here, and and now he's going to tell her, the money that you owe me should be the Kiddushin. So, and that's the argument. Demar Savar Mekadosh B'milva Mekudeshes. Rabbi Meir, who said that it's a good Kiddushin, holds that Mekadosh B'milva, if you betroth with a loan, it's Kiddushin. Umar Savar HaMekadosh B'milva Ina Mekudeshes. And the Chachamim, who say it's not a good Kiddushin, hold that you can't be Mekadosh with a loan. And again, it's problematic to have Rav the subject of Machlokas Tanaim, especially where, to have him, even though he would be like the Chachamim here, so it's a little bit better, but he wouldn't be like Rabbi Meir, and we rather not have him getting into this Machlokas. So the Gemara says, look, no, Dekuli Yama Mekadosh B'milva Eina Mekudeshes. Really, we could say, everybody agrees if you betroth with a loan, it's not Kiddushin. And here actually they're arguing about that very point. How does it work when you hire somebody to work for you, to make something for you, to improve an object for you? Mar Savar. Top of the next page. Eina l'schir salvasof. One opinion holds that you only owe the money at the end, on delivery, and therefore there's no loan here, and therefore right at that moment he gives her the stuff. She owes him for it. If he would forgive that payment at that moment, that wouldn't be this Mekadosh B'milva. That wouldn't be considered a loan, and that's why the Rabbi Meir would hold it's a good Kiddushin, because there's no loan here. Umar Savar yesh no ischir mitchila v'adsov, and the other opinion, the Chacham say no, the money is owed as it goes, and it's accumulating as he works, and there's a loan here. There's an outstanding loan here, and it's money owed, and that money is you can't be Mekadosh with that money. So and so if he tries to be Mekadosh with that loan, I mean, he tells her, the money that I owe you, that money should be the Kiddushin. So that's Rab's opinion that doesn't work, because there's no money here, and that doesn't work. As opposed to, it sounds like we're saying, if you hold the payment is only due at the end, so we wouldn't view him as, when he tries to be Mekadosh with that, as saying the money that you owe me. Rather, there we would view it as he's forgiving the debt, the need for payment. And so there's like an immediate hana from that. It's not so clear to me why, but we will look at that, if payment is due on delivery, as he's forgiving that payment, and that's a benefit to her, and that could be Kiddushin. But if it was an outstanding loan, so then we would or could potentially view it as he's trying to be Mekadosh her with that loan, with the money that she owes, and that doesn't work because there's no money. It's just a debt. Again, maybe if he would forgive the debt, that might be different. But if he's trying to be Mekadosh her with the money of the loan, which is gone or never really existing in this case, so that would not work. That's perhaps what they are arguing about, and then they would be in agreement with everybody would agree with Rav that you cannot actually betroth with a loan because money lent is meant to be spent. Okay, we'll hold here.